All right, welcome back. In this episode, we finally get to fit the VW thing to the GTR floor pan. First things first, we needed to reinforce the VW because we're going to cut so much of it apart. I'd be worried that it would get really floppy, quite honestly. So put some door bars in, some cross braces, and then we were able to cut pretty much everything from side to side on the inside out. We knew for sure we weren't going to need any of the engine bay area, so that we just removed that completely, understanding there would be a GTR engine wedged in there soon enough. So remove that, the firewall, the rear seat pan, most of the rocker assemblies. Just get it out of the way for now. Once we had the VW sort of rough cut to where we needed it, then we could start actually fitting the GTR pan to the body. So even here you can see that the A-posts are clearly in the way of the VW. So because the GTR is considerably wider than the VW, we still needed to cut it back to fit it within the confines of the VW body. Here's where we're removing the A-post and the inner fender aprons from the GTR. Again, just a rough cut. Just want the body to fit a little bit lower so we can establish a better cut line. You can see the rear fenders overhanging there. So let's get rid of some of that. Let's get rid of most of the front inner fender. Fit it again. All right, it's getting a little bit closer. All right, so after much cutting and fitting, we're here. So we're sort of halfway on getting that body down to where we want. It's probably got to come down about another 6 inches there yet, but it's actually lining up not too bad. What I didn't realize, kind of funny, that the inner aprons are aluminum. We got into it cutting, I'm like, oh damn, no wonder, that's why it's bolted on. So anyway, we were gonna cut this out completely. This is a box section. We were gonna weld it to the inner aprons, but now we've had to change plans a little bit. So now we're just gonna cut back the inner apron completely and then probably weld some flanges to it and bolt it to this box, which means we have to cut it back further. But so let's say we're gonna lower this down about another 6 inches or so. And you can see where this is gonna happen here, right? So this is gonna come down and we're gonna have to cut the body here to make room for the control arm. So don't know what that's gonna look like yet. The dash and the firewall, you can sort of make out what's going on here. The end of the dash on the thing was here, where the firewall, and then where the GTR firewall is. So they're gonna line up all right in there. This body of the thing is gonna flare out and wrap over the GTR rocker there. The back end, it's kind of interesting here. So you see the GTR inner fender and the Thing inner fender almost kind of match there. So lots of trimming here still yet to do. I got to cut the entire floor pan off the back of the GTR. Probably gonna take it right back to the frame, give us lots of room, drop it down. Another interesting thing is that once we trim this off to fit, the thing will actually have a trunk, not an engine, but an actual trunk. So you still see the overhang there that we have to deal with, but trim that off. So the back, we'll probably cut this one out here and get this to sleeve over top. Same thing, we'll keep the box of the Thing and we'll end up welding it to the inner wheel tub of the GTR there. And really this has to come down to match the top of that still. So there's a lot of cutting and grinding and pondering today. Oh yeah, the front, check that out. So we're at the point now where we gotta cut the front frame horns off the GTR. So there's a seam right there. And we'll probably just cut it off there for now so we can get the body to drop over top. So yeah, tomorrow, oh, here's another part. See the ABS controller there. We ended up cutting the box apart just to squeeze the ABS controller in there. So I don't know if that's exactly what it's going to look like. I'm just trying to make enough clearance right now to get it in there. So tomorrow, hopefully we can get that thing down sitting where we want it to, and then we can level it off, make sure it's true, and then we can start making all the fitting panels and joining panels and so on and so forth. But it's looking tougher already. The wide body kit would be pretty cool. Look how much those tires hang out. Especially that back tire. What do we got? Let me get tape measure. Hold on. While we're here. So the GTR tires will hang out. Look at that, about 7 3/4, 8 inches. Perfect. That's pretty good. So let's do some more fitting. Let's get it down on there. So to get that body a little bit lower, we needed to cut the front A-arms area so the suspension had somewhere to go, just to get it to the height I thought was best. You can see we can get the rear wheels to hit the back of the body there. Yeah, getting there. Lots of contemplation. All right, so that's it. I think this is going to be its final stance. So we ended up bringing it down that 6 inches, like I said, but I don't think we're gonna go any lower than that. And the reason being is this. So the front or the rear is good, no problem there. We can cut the height of that up and get lots of clearance there. But this one, the front's a little bit more difficult. Just because this one has upper control arms. If it was a McPherson strut style, it'd be fine. We could lower this more and not have any issues. But with this upper control arm and suspension travel is going to be an issue. We could bring it lower, but the problem you see is if this travels up higher than the suspension would allow at this point, or sorry, if we leave it here and this travels up in the suspension, it's fine. We don't have to cut into the hood. But if we want to lower it more, the suspension travel means we need to cut into the hood area and do that. So I think this is a good spot right now. I mean, I guess we can go down lower, but I kind of dig it. Kind of dig it where it sits right now. So this is a good happy medium. We're gonna have to modify the hood, obviously. You can see that. My thought here is that because the windshield folds down on this, if we come straight out with the hood and maybe make some sort of mouth or a scoop of some sort, and maybe, because it's got the ribbing like this on the hood as well, right? So we can bring that out, or maybe, I don't know, I don't think it'd be right to make a blister because there's no other curves on this car other than around the fenders. So the hood should probably be straight to match the rest of the lines of the thing as well. And then the windshield will lay right down on the flat section there. Anyway, that's still to be determined. The rear suspension, let's look at this part for a minute. So that worked out all right. Just got to cut that up a little bit. Give it some suspension clearance. The trunk's pretty cool because now we actually have a trunk. So I think, like I mentioned before, I'm just going to take the hinges from the top, put them in the bottom, and hinge the trunk lid out, so you actually have a usable trunk. Also on the GTR, it has a aluminum panel that goes across here. It acts like a strut tower brace. So I think what we'll do is we'll put that back in and we'll make a shelf that goes from the aluminum panel to the back of the thing and lock that whole rear end together. Then we got piles of welding to do everywhere. Even on the, so the firewall of the GTR, we need to clean up all this and have access to it, but we need to join this to the VW, and that'll be pretty tricky in there. And of course make new mounts for the ABS controller and make a lot of new brake lines. The steering column, let's see if I can get it from this side. Yeah, so the steering column for the GTR is right here, but of course the dash is right here. So, I mean, how far is the steering wheel going to come out, right? So we need to shorten the column up probably considerably just to get in the car and get around the column. And then come up with a cool way of mounting the gauges in the information center, but that's a long way off at this point still. But the front's got some pretty cool elements to it. So the original Rad Support on the GTR was a composite carbon removable piece that unbolted. And I think we're pretty much going to do something similar here as well, because once we carve this out for the suspension to travel, there's only going to be this piece of metal left here. So we'll make some mounts on the back of the control arm mount to hold the front of the body in the front and the back, and then we'll pretty much cut this in half and have this part removable. You can see the frame. Let's see, there's a better shot of it. That's the frame there from the GTR. So we'll make some flanges to bolt it right through the front here, and then we give a great place to mount the bumper on there as well. And it'll come up with some big, cool, gnarly bumper. You can also see this thing's been hit bad in this front corner. This is all cheese. Even this line here is cheese. You can see there's a seam here, but it's gone here. And there's a pile of damage. You can't see it anyway. Pile of damage in there. So if we mount the radiator and the fans behind it, which is where it has to go, we're gonna have to drill that full of holes anyway. And then mount some sort of front bumper to it, and then stick the intercoolers on it. And I think a really cool part of this will be the intercooler plumbing, because the intercooler charge tube leaves the engine here. It'll come in the bottom through the intercoolers and then out, back, and up into the throttle body there. So I don't know how the plumbing is going to go yet, whether it's going to go through the fender or maybe through the, there's a good idea. We take it right through the opening of the hood. Ooh. Okay, so create a mouth like this, go through the opening of the hood and the air cleaners. The air cleaners need to go somewhere yet too. There's the air intake tubes there. So maybe the air cleaners can stick out the front here and the intercooler plumbing can go right beside it or something. That'd be pretty cool looking. All right, so many decisions still to be made yet. But I'm digging the stance. I like everything about it. Oh yeah, let's look at these fenders. So rear fender's pretty straightforward. Yeah, well, obviously we have to widen it. If we run no fenders, then it's a giant heat score for the man, right? So we got to move the fenders out just to cover the tires. We got to move them out like 8 inches or something. But the car's not going to have a lot of suspension travel, so maybe even like that line is good. So we just bring that literally straight out and make some flares. Anyway, fronts are a little more difficult because of the suspension control arm sticking up, right? So now, see what I can do this with 2 hands, 1 hand anyway. So if we get that on top of there, that's probably fine, but we need to make some sort of speed hump or blister or something for the suspension travel. Or maybe just cut it open and let the suspension travel through it. Probably wouldn't be so bad. Can't take my hand off this because it'll roll or fall, but hope you get the gist. Let's see that. Something like that. A little bit wider. Yeah, we'll get it. Just gonna put that there. And then maybe even take the turn signals off and mount them in the front of the bumper there or something. I don't know. Need to stand back and look at that, but for now, I got a mountain of welding to do and start attaching this thing in, getting it locked down. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, subscribe. Thanks very much for watching.